Hello everyone, this is Aaditya Mehta and you are listening to podcast on personality development where we dive into the conversations with the experts so that we can grow ourselves in both ways, that is professionally and personally. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about leadership skills for Gen Z. And to guide us with that, we have an expert in Gen Z workplace management, an international author, leadership coach, business and organization psychologist, and a change management facilitator, Anna Hislop. But hey, before getting started with today's episode, I want you to follow this podcast and click on that bell button as well because I don't want you to miss out any other episode. And also, do join the WhatsApp community because now you guys can ask questions to the experts of this show if you join that WhatsApp community. So make sure to join the WhatsApp community because you can ask questions. It's your podcast. So do that. Now grab your pen and a book. Till the time, I'll play the intro music and get Anna on the show. Hello and welcome back to today's episode. As I've already mentioned, we are going to talk about Gen Zs today. Okay, and it's not only about leadership skills for Gen Zs, but it's also about how can Gen Z realize their full potential and how a leader can realize a potential through the Gen Z, right? So I'm sure this is going to be a very exciting episode. And to guide us with that, we have Anna Hislop. Hey Anna, what's up? How are you doing?
Hey, thank you, Addy, for having me on your podcast. I'm doing really well, thank you.
Wonderful. I'm really happy to have you on the show. Okay, it's a complete pleasure. And thank you so much for taking out your valuable time and being a part of this show. I really, really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me here and for being interested in exploring the topic of Gen Z in the workplace. It's a fascinating topic and it's really creating some waves on the internet, in the workplace, in the coffee houses, wherever we are talking about our work, we are talking about Gen Z today. So thank you for that.
Wonderful. So Anna, first of all, what I gave was, a very short and crisp introduction. You can say it is like an Instagram profile pic introduction. Okay.
Yeah.
Where, everyone likes the picture, but they don't know the story about that picture. So I would ask you to give a brief introduction about yourself and inform our listeners about you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Thank you. So, yes, my name is Anna Hislop, and I am a Swede, actually, who made the big leap across the North Sea to live and work in the UK. And that was about 4 years ago now. So I am spending my days doing leadership training, doing leadership coaching, working together with big companies, small companies to support them in their work with generational intelligence and how to support Gen Z.
That's wonderful. Anna, there is one very basic question for you. Okay, I believe you are doing great and you are developing leaders in UK. But Gen Zs are one thing which is many people are interested in, but no one actually understands them, and that's what I feel. Because they have a different work culture all the way. Because we have a habit, okay, I would say about Gen X, because we have a habit of working on a desk. But nowadays we see Gen Zs in coffee shops and they work really well in coffee shops nowadays. Okay, so what actually made you interested in focusing on Gen Zs and
Yeah.
exploring their culture and then becoming a Gen Z workplace management expert and then to provide leadership coaching for Gen Zs? What was the idea behind it? Where did it start?
Well, it started. I'd actually like to take you back to 2010 when this all started for me. And just for reference, that was the time when the Gangnam Style dances and videos were flooding the internet, and the London riots took place. The release of the iPad kind of took place, and Osama bin Laden was killed. So that was the world when I first got introduced to Gen Z, and I was working as a school teacher then. Back in Sweden, and I had been doing that for many years before I met Generation Z, as they came in as students. And I quickly realized that they were really different to the students that came before them. And I needed to change my teaching style to be able to engage with them, to be able to maximize their potential, and to get them to do really great work in the classroom. So that was kind of how I was first introduced to Gen Z. And when I quickly realized that they had very different learning needs compared to older students.
Right.
Yeah. So what I noticed when I did meet them in the classroom, I noticed that they had a really different kind of proactive approach to stuff that was happening in the world. And I noticed that they wanted to use their voice to make positive change. And I noticed that they also use their voice to tell us when things weren't up to standard, or when they were not happy with the education they got, or when they didn't feel treated in the right way or supported in the right way. And they made sure to make that known. And they also had their parents alongside them, cheering them on and encouraging them to use their voices for some positive changes.
Wonderful. You mentioned about proactiveness approach, okay, which Gen Zs have. Okay. Now, I look at that proactiveness. I may be completely wrong here, but it also affects their temperament somewhere. Okay. Because, I have been teaching Gen Zs. I was a computer tutor back then. So I taught computer applications and computer programming language to the Gen Z. Okay.
Yeah.
I believe the thing is to motivate and to coach Gen Zs and to make them work and to lead them into something very amazing. Okay, it takes a lot of temperament for us, but at the same time, we have to develop that temperament in Gen Zs as well. Okay, that's number one. And we live in a world of 5G nowadays. Okay, because and somewhere the patience which Gen X and the previous generations had, this generation they really lack patience. They want everything overnight. Okay, they need certain things in a very fastest way possible. And
and it's really interesting that, Adi, and
yeah,
you're putting your finger on a really challenging point, because as you were saying, we are used to having to wait for things. We are used to having to have patience and to see development over time. But this is a generation who's grown up with, Amazon or Alibaba and the fast delivery of both products and services. And they expect the same in their education. They expect the same in their workplace. So that's why bureaucracy and slow moving progress can be really frustrating for this generation.
Yeah. So my question is that because they are into this generation and they have a little less patience, I would say. Now, there is a complete generation gap between managers or leaders and the new generation which is coming in, that is Gen Z. Okay. Now, to understand this gap and to make sure that this gap doesn't actually impact the Gen Z or the leaders in a wrong way, how can a leader make sure to remove that gap of understanding between the generations and lead them into a better future? So, what are some things which you would like to say to the leaders out there who wants to lead Gen Z?
It's a really big question, that, Adi, and it's there's many levels to it, but one thing that I think is really important to appreciate is that Gen Z, they want to see the big picture. They want to see the end goal and the destination, and they really want to feel a part of that journey. And that's why they sometimes can feel a bit impatient if they're not invited to the table to have discussions when we try and find solutions to problems in the workplace.
Right.
And this is also why they feel frustrated when change is not happening fast enough, for example, or if they don't understand why things have to take and follow a specific process. So being open with communication and being open with the end goal and the destination and also the process to get to that place, I think is one thing that leaders can bear in mind.
Okay, that's pretty great, short and sweet, and I love that. Because my questions are long, I feel the answers are very short. But what would be the Gen Z's part over here? Because of course, I mean, the leaders have to make sure that they invite them into the progress, and they make sure to make them see the bigger picture and to make them see the end goal as well. But what is the Gen Z's part over here? Like, what should a true, I would say, a follower, okay, should do to actually make sure that, I am using my full potential and I'm growing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, again, it comes down to communication, and it comes down to transparency and sharing with your manager when you're struggling, when you find it hard to complete specific tasks, instead of, going quiet, not sharing how you're getting on. And then 3 weeks later, the manager is still waiting for this piece of work that hasn't been delivered yet. So that transparency is really important from the Gen Z perspective, to say that I think this is difficult. I've never done this before. Can you help me along the way? Or can you check in with me just to see how I'm getting on? So that's one thing that Gen Z can do. The other thing is to make sure that they know exactly what's expected of them, to make sure that they have it very clear what the expectation is of the quality of the work, the pace of the work, the need for the work. So why is it important? And if they have any questions on those points, they need to start asking them, and they need to check in with their manager to see that they've understood it correctly. So managing those expectations, I would say, is another thing that Gen Z can do.
Wonderful. Two major things, and that is to have that transparency, and at the same time, they can always ask them. And I believe that's really, really important. However, there are many Gen Zs who would like to improve their communication as well. Okay, and your book's name is also that you have to ask. Okay, all you have to do is ask. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Now, the thing is, as leaders or as managers, okay, it's quite easy to, do all the talking and asking and everything, because they have been in that industry for a very long time now. Okay. But Gen Zs, or the new students or the new candidates who are coming into the corporate industry, the world is completely new to them. Okay. And somewhere they are in the discomfort zone as well, because many things are happening, the things basically they have never experienced before. And if the thing happens that they have certain things in their mind, and they really want to ask, okay, but they are not comfortable asking. Okay.
No.
And these things happen when there is less confidence sometimes, and sometimes there is just carelessness, I would say. And I'm just being very open right now. But sometimes it's just carelessness, and sometimes it is genuinely a problem where there is less confidence, and they are afraid that if I ask this, I'll look dumb. If I ask this, my manager would scold me for this, okay, because he has explained me like 200 times, but still I'm not able to understand. Now, how can a guy who is new into the market, okay, can actually make sure to, have that confidence to go ahead and ask. And if sometimes he gets scolded or she gets scolded, it's fine. It's a learning process. Okay. To have that mindset that it's fine to, get scolded. It's just a learning process. How can a person can actually develop that sort of mindset, especially the Gen Zs, the newcomer who is new into the industry?
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right, Adi, when it comes to sometimes we have to feel the fear and do it anyway. Sometimes we have to be brave and, practice these things. And I always say to my coach clients that courage comes before confidence. So sometimes we want to sit and wait for confidence to feel confident. And we just think that one day I will be confident. But the only way to grow our confidence and to build it is to try new things and to be courageous. So there's nothing wrong with feeling a little bit of anxiety. There's nothing wrong with feeling a little bit scared, to ask a question or to challenge yourself with a new task. That is completely normal. And it's nothing dangerous. You won't fall off a cliff just because you feel that feeling. So normalizing it, I think, is very important. And to find some peer, maybe some colleagues who are in the same position and they can find support from each other, for example, to hold each other accountable and to support each other, to start being courageous in the workplace. The other thing that you could do, of course, is to find yourself a mentor, someone who's been in the business for a long time, someone who knows a lot about the processes and the protocols for that particular industry or for that particular company, and to ask that mentor all of your questions if you don't want to be seen as inexperienced by your boss, for example.
Right. That's wonderfully said. And guys, listeners, I would like to tell you this, that if sometimes confidence is something, which you want to develop, you can always connect with me, and I'm definitely very much happy to help you out. And also, you can connect with Anna Hislop over
Of
here,
course.
because she's all here, and she always loves to help. And that's what she had told me when she met me for the first time. However, all the contact points will be shared later in the show. So you make sure to, listen to the entire show and don't go anywhere. Coming back to Anna, uh, Anna, you mentioned some amazing points, and I believe it's really, really important to find a mentor, okay, to find that colleague with whom you can, become your friend, and, find certain ways to work closely with each other and solve each other's doubts. Okay. And that's something which is amazing, and everyone should do that. And nowadays, I would say most of the people can do that as well, because they are pretty open about everything when it comes to colleagues rather than the manager. However, my next question would be, under this exact situation, what should be a role of a leader or a manager to actually make sure that people or the newcomers or anyone, okay, they are not afraid of coming to them. Okay. They shouldn't be afraid of asking even the smallest questions, even the easiest questions. Okay. What should a leader do for that?
That's a very important point. And I think a lot of leaders can develop this skill even more. And it's very important. And particularly for Gen Z, they rate leadership qualities like trust, support, guidance and care as the most important leadership skills in today's world of work. So they're looking for a manager who is supportive, who will help them and who will guide them when they feel a bit lost. But to answer your question, Adi, I think it's very important to ask your Gen Z employee how they feel about different tasks. How confident are they feeling about doing this particular piece of work? and what could possibly get in their way to finalize this task based on the deadline that they have. And in that conversation, hopefully the Gen Z will feel safe enough to actually say, this is what I find hard. This is what I feel will be difficult. And this is the reason why things might not go the way I want them to. And can you please help me with that? So asking those kind of questions is important. And also checking in on, is there any kind of training that your Gen Z might be needing to do these tasks to a really high standard? Do they know exactly how, what the process looks like? Do they have the right qualification and training to get the job done? How are they feeling about presenting their results to a bigger group of colleagues or team members? What support do they need to feel good about themselves in that situation?
That's wonderfully said. And I believe everyone is getting a great value over here. I'm holding a pen right now, as you can see. And listeners, I hope you are sitting with a book and a pen as well, because I am writing down each and every notes which she's saying to me right now, because it does add value in my life. Okay. And I'm sure that it will add value in your life as well. So make sure to listen to this podcast intentionally to, learn something new. And I believe that's where this podcast is really going to add value. Coming back to Anna, sorry, I do talk with listeners a lot.
I love that. I think it's wonderful to have that communication. And it made me actually think about something else that's really important when it comes to how managers can help their younger, early careers members to do their best work. And that is feedback. Isn't that really important to give feedback often? And Gen Z, they're looking for feedback on a regular basis. Having feedback sessions twice a year in their annual performance conversation is not good enough for the young workers of today. They want it often, they want it regular, and they want it in real time. And this is a result from their education and their academic career. They were used to individual feedback from their teachers. They were supporting them and course correcting them when they were, doing the work in the wrong way. And that's what they're wanting from their managers as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for saying that out loud. I'm loving this conversation right now because, many interesting points have come out. Now, let's transition towards your book, okay, which you have written. And I love the name of the book. All you have to do is ask. And it's such an important sentence, I feel. It's such an important question as well to ask yourself. Are you asking enough? And at the same time, all you have to do is ask is something which actually clears so much of doubts in our minds as well. But now coming to you, of course, you are the expert in that. Tell us more about the book and what is that book all about. Although the title gives that away, but still, I would like to ask what it's about and what do you think is so different about this book, which completely stands out and listeners should definitely buy it.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Well, as you said, the book is called You Only Have to Ask. And then the subtitle is How to Realize the Full Potential of Gen Z at Work. And that word realize is actually really important because it has two meanings. The first meaning is that it's all about the managers realizing everything that Gen Z can offer in the workplace. And then the second meaning is that you also need to know how to make it happen with Gen Z, because they're not as easy as other generations that just do exactly as you say and never ask any challenging questions. So they are quite different in how they show up in the workplace. And as you mentioned earlier, yes, they are sometimes impatient, but it's because they have such a big desire to learn and to grow and to develop. And this is something super inspiring, I think, with Gen Z, and something that we can all really learn from, and any generation, if we were to have the same kind of curiosity as Gen Z, I think that would be great. But I recognized when I started my work in leadership development training that employee engagement was really low all across the world, and particularly in Europe, with very low engagement numbers, and people were not bringing all of their energy. They were not bringing all of their productivity to work. And there were some different reasons for that. And one of them was that they didn't feel like they were belonging in the workplace. The other one was that they didn't feel like the work they were doing was important or significant enough. And they didn't feel like they got the development and the training, or knew exactly what was expected of them. So those kind of things made me reflect on Gen Z and how they experience their workplace, and also the media, and how Gen Z is portrayed in the media being entitled, they're snowflakes, they're prone to anxiety, they're not willing to go the extra mile, they're hard to manage, all of those things that media is talking about and articles are written about. I just felt that it was a very unfair picture of this generation, because what they experience when they come to the workplace is uninspiring leadership. It's lack of development and lack of support, lack of feedback, lack of entrepreneurialism and creativity. So, the gap was really quite obvious when I started to look into this topic. So about the book, I must mention my co-author, Peter Lightfoot. He's a wonderful gentleman who is a part of this project and is a co-author for this book. So we decided to join team and to do something about this, because we recognize that this gap will never close itself. The managers need to have some guidance of how to lead this generation. So that's what we did. And it's based around 8 questions. It's a framework of 8 questions, 1 question per chapter, and they are all building blocks of how to win with Gen Z. So the first question, for example, is, do you really understand what's expected of you? Mm. This is a question that we all ask ourselves. What is expected of me in this situation? What is my boss expecting? What is my team expecting? What is my colleague expecting? What is the HR department expecting? All of these different people in the work place have expectations of us, but they don't necessarily say what it is out loud. Yeah. And this is our responsibility to start asking these questions. The second question is, do they know why it's expected of them? And that talks about the big picture. That talks about the business mission and strategy, and how much do we actually spend, how much time do we spend talking about the big picture? It's very often just transactional, do this piece of work, do that piece of work, and we don't actually connect it with the bigger picture and the mission. And that's really important for Gen Z.
That's some great points, and I'm definitely going to buy the book now.
Do you want to know all the questions, or how do you want to play it, Adi?
Well, I would like to know all the questions, and of course, after that, I would play, of course. But you can only play when you know all the rules, right? Until
that's right.
You cannot play.
Yeah, because the other thing that's really important to Gen Z, and that's the third question in the book, and that is, does it align with what I want to do? And this is connecting with Gen Z's mission and purpose. They need to feel like whatever they do is meaningful and fulfilling, and they want to use their time and their voice to make a meaningful contribution to this world. So that is the third question. And if there's not an alignment between what they do and what they really want to be doing, then they will never bring that energy and that productivity to work.
Right. That's wonderfully said. I was actually going to ask that question, but I think you answered it very well. However, okay, I'm still going to ask it, because many listeners now, they would expect that. So this would be the last question, I promise. And that is, most of the Gen Zs nowadays, okay, especially in India, I don't know about UK or US, but this is a new culture in India as well, that
Mm,
everyone wants to be entrepreneurs in the long run. Okay.
mm,
And somewhere, okay, they are like, I want to give jobs rather than doing jobs. Okay.
mm,
And that's fine. Okay. That's
mm,
that's completely fine. However, the problem would be that if they are working for someone, okay, if they are working with someone,
mm,
okay, as a manager or as a leader, okay,
mm,
how can one let them know about their full potential? That's number one. And again, as there are two kinds of Gen Zs as well, where one knows everything what he or she wants to do, but the
mm,
other one is still confused. Okay,
mm,
they
mm,
actually don't know what their
mm,
purpose is, or what their
mm,
passion is, what they like
mm,
to do, and
mm,
etc etc. And as a
mm.
manager, okay, you also have to realize that that
Yeah.
what actually do they like. Okay,
Mm,
for
mm,
ambitious ones, for the ones who know,
mm,
it's very easy. Okay, you
mm.
can actually go to them, ask them, and they will answer really quickly. But
Yeah.
the other ones are not going to answer because they are not quite sure about it. Okay,
Mm, mm,
so two things over here. Okay, the first one, to understand from the people who doesn't know yet what they
mm,
want to do, and the second one, okay, who wants to become entrepreneur. Okay,
mm,
so in both these cases, how can a manager can make sure that they understand the role, they understand the mission of that Gen Z, and then make sure to align them with organizational goals as well.
mm. Yeah. It's really important that. And I think one thing is to help the Gen Z understand their strengths.
Mm.
Yeah. So what about them makes them the right person to do that particular job? What skills do they have? What strengths do they have? And why are they the right person to do that job? Um, so the other thing that managers can do to realize the full potential of Gen Z is to check in with them and ask them what parts of their work do they really love. When do they feel like they're really achieving and performing well at work? What are they doing that can help them to identify what their strengths are and what their mission is? But the other thing that the managers needs to realize is that for Gen Z is very different to the other generation's careers. Gen Z is expected to have 17 different employers during their life at work, and they're expected to have 5 different careers at work. And they're expected to retire when they're 80 or something like that. So the old idea that you start your job, you love your job from day one, and you carry on doing what you're doing for the rest of your career, that's not the reality anymore. So I
Mm.
think managers need to realize that the Gen Z will only be there for a number of years. They will not stay there forever. And it's about making sure that they get as much out of the Gen Z, in a good way, as possible during the time they spend together. So that's why it's important to connect with the strengths, the skills, and the passions of Gen Z to get the most out of them.
That's wonderfully said. Thank you so much for answering that. I believe it's also really important, and the statistics which you gave, I believe that's really really important for managers to understand. Uh,
Mm.
so wonderfully said. However, I know I do say a lot of last questions, but this would be the last one. And this is from one of the community members when I posted about you, and they asked this question to you specifically. Her name is Divya, uh, and Divya is asking. She is a Gen Z herself,
Mhm.
and she is asking that most of the times I do love my job, but most of the times on the job I feel like i am I am bored. Okay, I don't
Mm,
want to go to the job on a particular day. And
mm,
sometimes I just want to sleep at home. Okay.
mm,
And
mm,
doesn't want to do anything. Okay.
mm.
What could be the reason, and how can I overcome that, and so that I can grow in my career?
Yeah, well, Divya, that is, very honest and very kind of Gen Z like to say the question that way as well. Sometimes I'm really bored at work, and sometimes I don't even want to go there, and that could be a symptom of something. So it could be a symptom of not really knowing the expectations of yourself at work. Or it can be a symptom of not knowing exactly why you are asked to do what you're asked to do and what the big picture is. Or it could be the symptom of you not feeling connected and feeling the meaningfulness of your work. The other thing is that sometimes managers don't show enough care. And that is something Gen Z responds to quite badly. If there's no sense of caring and support in the workplace, and that might be a reason for why you want to avoid going to work sometimes, or that you don't feel like you have the skills to do the job in the way that you want to. And these are all a part of the 8 questions of my book. So this is brilliant. Because sometimes when we feel that we're not bringing all of our energy to work, it's because one of these things are lacking. It could be the feedback culture of the work that you're in as well, that you don't get enough feedback, or you don't get enough development opportunities. You're not challenged at work. You're not stretching yourself. It's too easy. That's often something that makes us feel bored. When we're doing work that's not challenging us, or
Right.
that we don't feel like we're being rewarded for the work that we're doing. The salary is too low, or we don't feel appreciated at work. That could be another reason. So all
Right.
of these things are actually one of the questions in my book.
So that's pretty amazing, and I really loved the insight over here, Anna. Uh, I believe Divya, Anna has answered your question, and if that adds value in your life, make sure to share it with your friends as well. Okay, and let them know that they can connect to the WhatsApp community, and also you can get directly connected with Anna on her mentioned social media link. So Anna, this is the final question, and that is, if people wants to get connected with you, okay, how can they find you on the internet?
They can find me on LinkedIn. So that is Anna Hislop. You see my name there on the screen. That's the spelling. Search me up. I am a Gen Z employee engagement expert, and I write about this in my posts. And there's also links and connections to the book. And the book will be published in July. So if you're curious about these 8 questions and as a manager, how you can ask them, this book will be a handbook for you to start being curious about your Gen Zs. And if you're a Gen Z who struggle at work for some reason and you don't feel like you do your best work where you are currently, you can also buy this book and learn about the question that you need to start asking to your manager to create a better situation for yourself.
Thank you so much, Anna, for answering that. That has been a wonderful session. A bit of ups and downs, of course, but it has been a wonderful session. Personally, I got a lot of learning from this episode, and listeners, I think you have got that as well. So, if this episode and this podcast adds value in your life, make sure to share it with your loved ones, because, as Anna told, that there might be many symptoms and your friends and family members might have them. Send this link to them, and you might never know, you are the angel for them, right? So make sure to share it with your loved ones.
Yeah.
With that being said, this is Aditya Mehta along with Anna Hislop signing off from this episode. See you in the next one. Till then, peace out.